Hello, everybody. This is Mr. Haig. Welcome to another episode of Mr. Haig's podcast. And wow, what is happening these days? Here we are, the year 2023. We're in the Thanksgiving season, and I'm in the Thanksgiving recess. I'm just kind of hanging loose, but I find myself getting challenged to watch the media. I mean, there's a lot to digest in today's news media. From Donald Trump's criminal trials to the conflicts in the Middle East and Ukraine. I mean, this is enough to turn off the tube for a while, you know? I mean, crazy. However, I felt the need to discuss about this one news that kind of hit me to the core. Whenever I hear a high school violent act of some degree or something that happens in high school, that captures my attention. I need to focus on that and possibly even talk about that. So the news about the brutal beating and murder of teenager Jonathan Lewis shook me to the core because I'm a teacher. And when it comes to teens, incidents like this can happen anywhere and unfortunately for any reason. I've seen fights each year. It doesn't really matter what school it is. There are fights in all different types of high schools that I've taught at. Doesn't matter the demographic. It doesn't matter the wealth. High school teens fight. The reasoning behind the fights, some adults in the adult mind would be categorized as, well, just plain dumb or useless or a waste of energy. And this is no exception. This fight that happened at Rancho High School in Las Vegas on November 1st, it involved a mob of 15 attacking teens, several victims, and the end result is the death of student Jonathan Lewis and the arrest of 8 attackers. A life taken, several lives ruined over what? A vape pen and wireless headphones. Let me repeat. A life was lost, several lives ruined because they're arrested and currently in jail over a vape pen and wireless headphones. Now that's tragic in many ways. From what I understand, it all started when a student, so-called friend of Jonathan Lewis, accused another student of stealing his vape pen and headphones. So the accuser challenged the would-be thieves to a fight at an alley just outside of school property. Now, whenever a school fight, especially with teens, is announced, word spreads and an audience builds. It's now the main event of the day. As many as 20 students showed up to watch this fight, and when the accuser threw the first punch at the thief, a mob of students suddenly just charged in and started attacking. From what I understand, there was punches thrown, and they attempted to throw the accuser into a garbage can. So Jonathan Lewis saw the events and, of course, wanted to try to intervene and help his friend. So the attackers then turned on Jonathan, and they kept pounding him and beating him. Even as he lay on the ground, curled up, bleeding from the head, unresponsive, they kept on kicking him. As many as 10 of them. They just kept kicking and kicking and kicking like he was some sort of object. So an adult arrived to see what was going on. saw Jonathan laying on the ground, bloodied and beaten. He carried the lifeless, or so-called the limp body, back to campus, where an ambulance was called, and then at a nearby hospital, the doctors determined that Jonathan had suffered non-survivable head trauma. So in other words, he was brain dead. He was placed on life support for several days, so the family can determine if they can donate his organs. What a horrible thing to decide. What a horrible experience. Over a vape pen and wireless headphones. Well, the hero of this is obviously Jonathan Lewis. He saved his friend. And who knows what could have happened to his friend. He saw his friend in danger and he took action, even though it cost him his life. The villains? Well, so far, 9 kids. Oh, but only 8 of them have been arrested, you say. No, first of all, there are 10 people that are suspects. 2 of them they haven't found yet. But 8 have been arrested. And, but who was the 9th kid? Who was the 9th villain? The 9th villain is the accuser himself. That's right. Whoa, Mr. Haig, you're accusing someone who's a victim? Someone who got his property stolen as the 9th villain? Yes. And why do I fault the accusing student? After all, he was attacked by the mob. Here's why. He brought in a vape pen, which is illegal in Nevada. You brought something in school you know you should not. You should not have, and tried to retrieve it. But instead of letting it go or asking for help from school officials, you picked a fight. You got beat. Your friend is dead. You got blood in your hands, my friend. I'm sorry, accuser. You got blood in your hands. Because you, the accuser, the victim of theft, decided to break school rules, bring in something illegal. The other villains are those 10 attackers, obviously, maybe more. Well, 8 of them were brought in. They were arrested. 4 of them are being tried as adults. They're going to jail for a long time. They kicked someone who was on the ground, cowering, bleeding, but continue to kick. What a bunch of cowards. Because you know that if it was one-on-one, the fight would not have lasted that long. They saw an opportunity to attack someone, to let out their aggression, to let out their anger that they have accumulated throughout their whole lives, to attack a helpless person who would not be able to fight back. They couldn't act alone. No, they needed their homies with them. So, 10 suspects, as mentioned, 8 are arrested. Their lives are technically over. And over what? A vape pen, wireless headphones. You can get wireless headphones as low as $20 to, of course, $300 or $400 on Amazon. And hey, guess what? Black Friday's coming up. So what's the aftermath in all this? Well, thankfully, most responses in social media and the news show that people think justice needs to be served. However, there are a few dummies out there who complain why this incident doesn't get as much coverage, and they want to make it into a racial issue since those thugs were all black and Jonathan Lewis is white. The accuser is white. Okay, so then one dude from TikTok I saw was wondering why President Biden didn't say anything about this. That is so laughable. What did you want President Biden to say? I mean, I didn't hear anything from the Las Vegas mayor's office. I didn't hear anything from the Nevada governor's office. I didn't hear much from the school board. I heard a few little things from the principal, but nothing that shows sorrow or regret or sympathy or anything like that. But then again, I wasn't really reading everything, and the press only trickles in information. The question within us all is, why do teens fight over stupid things? And what can be done about it? This is a mental health issue. Okay, the schools and parents and adults, we all must get involved. So I read a really cool article entitled, Why a Teenager's Brain is Like a Ferrari with Bicycle Brakes. Wow, how much truth is to that one? Definitely truth. A teenager's brain can go crazy. Adolescents are highly impacted more than adults when they're called names, or when they feel disrespected, or when someone talks smack about them in social media. And the fights are rather vicious. I've seen some ugly ones in my time. I've seen fights where an ambulance had to be called. I've seen cuts, bruises, broken bones, etc. I've seen teachers attacked. I've seen security attacked. I've seen administrators attacked. I would imagine that the accusing students felt a degree of disrespect when his things were stolen. So instead of going to the proper authorities, a teacher or an administrator, he decided, well, let me fight them to restore what little respect I have for myself. You brought in an illegal substance. What respect do you have? Students, do me a favor. Chill out. Seriously. Jonathan Lewis was a student close to your age with hopes and dreams and his whole life ahead of him. He died because this so-called friend had to pick a fight over something just plain dumb and not worth it, because a bunch of thugs attacked him over something just plain stupid. Anyways, I know that there are other things to blame about a student's this mentality of violence in their brains. I know that anger is easily provoked inside the mind. Not saying that everybody acts out on anger, but definitely there's a tinge of something triggers you and start thinking about it, fighting someone. You start, maybe even fantasizing about kicking the crap out of somebody who did you wrong. Studies have shown that things like video games, violent video games, or watching violent content in social media increases aggressive thoughts and behaviors. How many times have you watched a Karen video and wanted to jump through the screen to beat the crap out of her? How often do you play games like Call of Duty and Grand Theft Auto or Halo and feel your blood pressure rise and your heart pounding against your chest? Kids who play these video games on a consistent basis are more likely to commit crimes and get arrested. Oh, and the film and music industries are not innocent by any means. Now I like movies. I watch movies. I would love to have become a film producer. But at the same time, these movies can be a little bit too stimulating, carrying a strong degree of violence. There are superhero movies like The Avengers and Spider-Man, and even Star Wars. I watch these movies and whoa, talk about a major trip, there's people punching, shooting, killing, stomping, flying all over the place. Wow. Some of the lyrics on the new music that I hear, disrespecting women and promoting violence, attacking cops, attacking teachers. You think that you can live without teachers? You think you can live your life without an education? You think that listening to these lyrics is going to make you a man or a big shot? You wonder why the news of 1,000 dead after an earthquake, or a school shooting, or a military bombing an entire village results in no empathy from anyone. And when there is no empathy, there is no action to change things. There is no desire to demand change from our politicians. So these craven politicians will serve the best interests of those that stuff their pockets with money over citizens. So you question, do we have a democracy? Democracy comes with responsibility. Okay? It comes with attention and awareness. You have to be aware and you have to demand. But we don't care anymore. We don't do anything about it anymore. I mean, I understand there's also violence in the home and insufficient parental supervision. I mean, it was interesting because I went down to San Diego for a training, and I got trained at a very wealthy high school with wealthy kids. But even them, they have parent problems. This one girl said that, she would come home hoping to have a nice talk with their mom and dad, and having a nice talk with anybody over there, talk about their day and get close and connect. But of course, dad and mom are divorced, and mom's away dating many men. And, all the mom does is leave a big wad of money on the counter. Here, get yourself something to eat. Okay, that's not a connection. And I also know peer pressure. Kids are more likely to engage in risky or violent behaviors when they act in a group. And that's what happened here. That's what's called a coward. That was a cowardly act. They need others to have the guts to throw a punch or a kick, to act out. I mean, you got to rise above that. You got to go above all that. You have to be aware of what your brain is doing, of what your body is doing. Each time you're on TikTok, you're being programmed. Each time you play a violent video game, you're being programmed. You watch, a crazy movie, you're being programmed. And adults too. I'm not saying that teens are the only ones. Adults too. And your brain's on auto mode at that point if you don't become aware. You have to be aware of what your mind is thinking. That's the beauty of meditation and peaceful living. My God, my brain is going berserk, but maybe I should just turn this off. Or maybe I know what this is I know what's happening to my mind. I'm going to keep on watching, but I'm not going to let it affect me. Okay, awesome. But if you suspect someone stealing your property, go up to the person and just simply ask for it back. Okay, well, what if he says, yeah, right, I didn't steal anything? Listen, be the snitch. If this kid stole something and you know it, go to campus security or go to your parents. Have them complain to campus security or the administration. They'll search them, and hopefully you'll retrieve them. Oh, yeah, you'll be called a snitch. But I'm sure that Jonathan Lewis would much rather be called a snitch than be 6 feet under. Okay? Accusing a student, this accusing student did wrong. He chose the wrong solution. Fighting is never the solution. Ask the people in jail. Okay, is it a solution to prove what? Teens tend not to break up fights. They pull out their phones and they record and they put it up on social media. That is the in thing these days. That's what they love to do. I mean, I've experienced fights firsthand. In my own classroom, I had to break up a fight. It was ugly. Okay, I mean, one kid was accusing another kid for stealing, and all of a sudden a fight ensued. Anyways, it involved the police. I got punched twice. I pressed charges. That's right, I did. I pressed charges. At any rate, rest in peace, Jonathan Lewis. I hope one day, probably in about 25 years or so, when these attackers will visit your grave and pray for your forgiveness. And I hope you give it to them. Knowing the hero that you are, you probably will. So with that being said, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. This is Mr. Haig. Until next time.